Hi everyone, today we're in Long Beach, California, and we are at the WattEV site at the Port of Long Beach. So today we're going to take a look at the Nikola electric trucks that they have here. We're going to take a look at the charging infrastructure, and we're going to talk about charging as a service, and we're going to talk about trucking as a service. WattEV has developed their own charging hardware here. They've also future-proofed the site to support megawatt charging, because they believe the future of trucking is megawatt charging.
So WattEV was created to accelerate the transition to electric heavy-duty trucking. And when we first started the company several years ago, we wanted to be the main infrastructure provider. So we started off with the idea of building out truck charging infrastructure in strategically marked locations, with our first site starting in Bakersfield, another in San Bernardino, Gardena, and the one in Long Beach, which we're at today. We started with the idea of build it and they will come, but very quickly realized that we can't just build and have the demand not generate naturally. So that's when we started looking at electric truck as a service concept and how we can sort of prime the market and really accelerate the transition by bringing both the infrastructure and the trucks to help both the shippers and the carriers meet their sustainability goals. So there's a lot of barriers that are stopping both shippers and carriers from getting into this. Shippers may not want to go and build infrastructure behind the fence. They may not have the capital to do so, they may not have the land to do so, and they may not have the power to do so. And then on the carriers, they also are faced with the same issue of how do I purchase a truck that's 3 to 4 times as much? Where am I going to charge? How often do I need to charge? What happens on the other end? And that's why we came up with the truck as a service concept, where we ourselves have been testing the routes and then going to the carriers and saying, hey, we've tested this. We know that we can take an electric truck from the port to Inland Empire with charging on both sides. So we're providing the electric truck, we're providing the charging, we're providing the maintenance and the damage insurance, all at a fixed price per month.
As WattEV actually started, breaking ground on some of the sites and getting trucks delivered, we started getting, more and more serious with them about, hey, well, when can we actually get one of these things and drive it onto our network? I think some of the magic that happens with a company like WattEV working with a company like Uber Freight is we're really good at supply-demand matching, and we have an incredible amount of scale. So when we think about a company like WattEV, who is always going to have really incredible opportunities they're finding with target shippers. In almost all cases, there's always going to be some amount of holes in a schedule where the truck is underutilized. You can get pretty darn efficient with like a really good customer that has high density, but there's always going to be gaps, and that's really where Uber Freight can come in and help.
The shippers are the ones that are going to push this. The shipper's looking for their scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions. And a shipper, in lieu of building a new assembly plant or a new manufacturing plant, they can have their trucking company show up with 0 tailpipe emissions, which allows them to get to their scope 3 goals. So it's a quick way for a shipper to hit their ESG goals.
We wanted to be as involved as possible in the development process. So for the first 4 sites, we've actually been acting almost as our own EPC contractor from start to finish. So we know exactly what goes into these sites. So when you look at the charging infrastructure, there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes. Right, underground there's at least 4 conduits that are going to each dispenser, then another 3 that go from the power cabinet to the dispenser itself. So that's a tremendous amount of conduit work and work that goes into the civil and electrical portion of this.
When we got involved with WattEV, they just kind of gave us a blank slate of just saying, hey, we want to use your knowledge and expertise from what you've done with DCFC. Can you design this for us? So the design process was a couple months to kind of figure everything out and work with them on what they're looking for. Deciding on power level, they went with the 360 kilowatt. Obviously, they're going to be starting to look towards the megawatt charging station at some point. The next step in kind of getting it through permitting, after that, it's definitely utility coordination with SCE, which again has also been very, very good to work with on this site.
We were just getting our program started. I don't think we quite had a charge-ready transport program at the time, but as soon as that was released, we got them into the fold. Well, it takes the customer's commitment to the design. We'll come out under charge ready. We'll come out and take a look at our point of connection, where we want to connect to the system. We'll give a preliminary design to the customer, have them take a look at what we have preliminary as far as the infrastructure is concerned, and then after that, the customer signs off on the prelim and goes on with the final design.
We suggest to any client that we have is to future-proof your site, especially for EV. That doesn't mean you have to install the breakers, but installing the conduit that is large enough to be a future-proofed availability is really important, because swapping out chargers with the conduit already there and just pulling the wire is much easier than having to put new conduit in, obviously.
Phase 1 of this property, we've got 13 dual-cord 360 kilowatt CCS chargers, so we can charge 26 trucks concurrently, and that's about 5 megawatts of power. For us, I mean, it's not about just stopping at that. We want to really see the site grow, and that's where we start getting into MCS. And we've got one of our products here, which is a megawatt dispenser, which can deliver 1,200 kilowatts of power. So we're going from a 2 to 3 hour charge time down to about a 30 to 45 minute charge time. And that's when we really see the big inflection point happening.
The idea here is that on a regular basis, trucks will still come and do CCS charging, because megawatt charging may not be necessary all the time. That is meant for anyone who is out of charge or has a quick need for charging, can come with the trailer, pull in, right. They don't need to come on these sites, on the SCCS chargers. They will go straight in, hook up the cord, and within 30 minutes they're done with, and they can move on with their load. So that's the whole idea, that it's a fast lane, if you want to call it, and they can take advantage of it.
I think flexibility is one of the most important challenges here. As we all know, the MCS charging capabilities with the trucks are not available yet. So with the equipment that we have designed, we are providing that flexibility to the customer, that we satisfy their requirements today and tomorrow. So by placing these new chargers in place with the CCS, all of it is wired, all of it is cabled, that once the MCS is there, basically we put the MCS dispenser in place, ready to go.
We're coming up with unique solutions of how can we increase the utilization of these assets, and maybe even matching them with loads on the way back through Uber Freight's platform, so that these trucks are never driven empty.
We had our first load actually delivered with WattEV earlier this year. It was super exciting. I was thrilled to see an EV on the network.
I think you're going to see the speed of adoption because of the reliability, because of people like WattEV. The people that buy trucks right now are people that have chargers available. There's so many trucking companies that return to base like this and go less than 300 miles a day. So because of that, their model fits a whole segment of the industry, which is really what the drivers want anyway. They want this job because they get to come home.
When you're on a diesel truck, it's really noisy. You get all this noise coming from everywhere when you're driving. And on these trucks, the only noise that you hear is the radio.
10 years ago when I started driving, this seemed far-fetched. This seemed like, oh, you only see that in the movies, you're not gonna see that out here. So when I was approached for this opportunity, I was a little hesitant, but I've been here since then and haven't looked back.
Carriers have sustainability goals, which kind of makes you feel like we can help them with that now. It's like they're very ambitious, and then what we've created, I think it's perfect match, because now we can facilitate that.
I think this space though is so new and interesting that we don't necessarily have to have everything figured out. We're still very much in like pilot and scale phase. There are things that we're learning in a pilot that we're going to be able to figure out at scale. And there's things that we're only going to learn at scale that we're going to have to solve with technology at scale to really make this work.
Because we believe strongly in what we're doing right now, those challenges are easy to deal with. Those are good challenges to have.
We already have over 50 other sites that we've got site control over that takes us all the way up to Northern California towards the border with Mexico, as well as on the I-10 corridor towards Arizona. But again, we don't want to just stop in California. We know it takes a lot more of a nationwide approach. So we are also looking at expanding to the East Coast, also to Oregon and other states that are following this trend of going towards zero emissions.